Welcome back to another episode of Eric's Camping Adventures. We're going to go on another search today looking for some beautiful places. Hey, welcome back. We are headed back into the Ouachita National Forest and headed a little bit further south. South of Talamina Drive in this visit to the forest, and we're going to head down to the Billy Creek Recreation Area. So today we're doing something exciting. We're going to try to get there at 6:30. Rain is supposed to stop at 6 o'clock, and we're kind of hoping that it will be a good setup, not too much rain. Maybe only a few drips on us from the trees, and we're gonna have a good time. So this trip we're gonna try to do maybe a little bit of hiking along the Choctaw Trail, maybe some mountain biking along. Look at that beautiful waterfall there. Wow, it's coming right out of the mountains. We're going to try to take in some views on the mountain bikes, a little hiking, maybe a little off-roading too. We're going to try to explore, and we're going to spend a couple nights out here again, just like we did up at the Winding Stair Recreation Area. So come along. Billy Creek is located just north of Route 63, south of Talamina Drive. Gaia is the only navigational service that actually has a good representation of the Billy Creek area, and you can see it on this map in relationship to Cedar Lake and Winding Stair. What did I do? Oh. Well, that's going to change the adventure. We were losing light fast. It was dusk. We had a lot of clouds, and couldn't see my trailer good, and my mucked up mirrors and my dirty backup camera, and I did some damage. So that might have been the roughest setup ever. We're still married, I think.
Oh yeah.
And the pilot is scratched up. The axle is bent on the camping trailer, and my Cannondale bike is in need of repair. I'll show you in the morning. While I was heating water for coffee, I decided to wander around our campsite, and I did get a reminder of why we came out here. The Billy Creek was full from the recent rains. The sound of the creek was absolutely beautiful, and you can't miss it in the background. Just a beautiful spot. A little bit of flooding, but all of it was contained. Certainly a good reminder why we made the effort to get out here, but I got a little work ahead of me today. There's a nice little trail here along the Billy Creek here this morning, and I just want to go down a few, maybe a couple hundred feet, and just kind of look around. And it's really beautiful this morning here. And I need something beautiful to look at this morning before I start looking at those repairs I need to do on the Pilot and the trailer. I don't have any questions about whether we can get out of here or not. It's a question of how much work do I have to do when I get back. The sound of Billy Creek in the background of everything we did this weekend, whether it was repairs or cooking or just planning our next steps, it was a beautiful sound. So when you look at this tire here, you see a real nice straight up and down parallel to the box. You come in on this side, you can see that the tire is not right, not straight up and down with the box. So I'm gonna, before we do anything today, I'm going to take that tire off and make sure that the spindle is not cracked away from the axle, because that would be pretty critical in terms of being able to get home safely. I wouldn't want my tire to fly off going down the road and do something dangerous to someone else. It's going to be behind me, but I don't want it to hurt someone else. And two, it might take all day to find an axle where I'm at. So get an axle, bring it back, put it on. That's not a fun idea, but we might have to do that for safety. So the bike got smashed. Good thing I got some Amazon points left to get myself a derailleur and a new rim for the back. Probably could just take the tire and the inner tube and reuse it. It's not that bad. And let me show you what's going on with the Pilot. So that's a booger up, and I think I can probably, restore the shape of it by, working from the inside. Maybe a little touch-up paint. We'll see what happens. If it really looks, everything functions. There's nothing changed with function. It's just how it looks right now. And worst comes to worst, I could just get myself a whole new back tailgate for a white Pilot and just buy that. But that's pretty expensive, so maybe I just keep banging it up. And my wife suggested we just start a sticker collection and put it right on the back right there, and that might be the best option. Yeah. But I'm a little concerned the spindle might be bent, or concerned that it turns kind of rough. So maybe it's just a bearing. Good thing I got those extra bearings with me. So that spindle is bent right in the middle. I'm not overly confident that that is salvageable. Maybe it could be replaced, but temporarily might be able to straighten it. We'll see what happens here. So let's go over to the expert here and ask her how this happened. How did this happen, Michelle? She's not wanting to comment, but the truth is that I wanted a picture or something, and I backed up quickly and jackknifed my trailer. I didn't realize its position, and I was watching what I wanted to take a picture of rather than watching my trailer. So yeah, not cool. So I have a plan here. I got my chain recovery kit, and I'm gonna wrap it around the axle. 2 points. I'm going to wrap it around a small jack for the pilot, which has a really nice saddle in it that'll go right over the spindle, and I'm going to try to straighten that spindle and see what happens. I picked this up on a YouTube video. However, I've never seen it applied to a bent spindle. Put a glove on the spindle to prevent the bearing trace from getting scratched up, and put my nut back on over here as an anchor point. And you're gonna see if this will work or not to try to pull that spindle straight. I'm going to disassemble and just see if there's been any progress. This is a 3,000-pound jack and a 2,000-pound axle, and I'm just hoping this will be enough to straighten it out. Really don't know if this will work at all, but I do know this: if there's enough bend in that, there is no way that the hub is going to be able to tolerate that being in a straight line, and the axles get me home without going through maybe all 4 bearings that I got. I gave this a second try, but I could not tell any difference from my attempt to straighten this with the jack. I think the spindle is just hard and thick, and it's not going to go. Alright, so we are headed down the road to pick up a new axle. I decided that I had my torch with me, and I thought maybe I could heat up the spindle and bend it back, but I decided there was no way that I was actually going to get that thing straight exactly the way it was manufactured. So rather than think that my abilities might include being able to get that right, I just decided to go get the axle. It's 1 hour away from our campsite. Gonna go get it, put on a new one, and get back to our adventure. We pulled into the Tractor Supply at Wilburton, Oklahoma, and I have to admit I was so impressed. I had called them in advance, and a young girl pulled the correct axle and had it sitting at the cash register for me. She was pretty young, so I have hope in this future generation that she was able to pull the exact axle and have it ready for me. So we are headed back to the campsite, new axle in hand. Picked it up at Tractor Supply. Can't be more thankful that they actually had the exact axle in stock. I have never been able to find that axle in stock. When I found it the first time, I had to go out of town to get it, and boy, that was luck. It was within I think it was 38 miles from the campsite. Went and picked it up. They had laid it aside behind the register, and they're going back to the campsite to put it on, and we'll get out tomorrow.
In 1,000 feet, turn left onto NF 6022.
So I think the best plan is to pull the hubs off while the axle is still attached, preserve the hubs with the hub adapters on them and just switch them over to the new axle. The bird out there is mimicking my GoPro when I hit the go button. This is not my favorite activity in the backcountry, but boy did I ever get lucky this time. I've never actually had to do any work on a video since I have been camping to fix something that I had broke, doing something unthinking. But this is working out okay. I think I got pretty lucky here. I am so glad that I always bring my tools with me, including my electrical impact. Don't go in the backcountry without your tools. All right, the axle is centered, so now I'm just going to snug up the U-bolts. Probably a pretty easy axle switch to do because of the flip kit on the bottom of it, so it really is a pretty simple task. Not a preferred task for the backcountry, but yeah, you know, it's made me wonder how good is the steel on these axles, and I did an exact replacement to it. But if that little bit of a slide will bend the spindle, got some questions. I need to actually inspect that hub too, make sure it looks good, it's not cracked or bent, or the hub adapter is not cracked. Good, maintain the distance. That might have been better than before. I think that's good. Now we just got to take the hubs off and put the ones on with the hub adapters. So this is the hub on the damaged side. The main thing I'm interested in here is there any kind of damage? Any kind of damage on the aluminum? Any kind of split or warp anywhere? And I don't see anything like that. I'm a little concerned about that inner bearing. It would have been cocked off to the side. Had some extra pressure on it. I might just change that out. Well, we got the new hubs on. The old hubs on the new axle. And we're just ready to get the tires back on now. I bet you that'll straighten out that camber problem. Well, I think that part of the adventure is concluded. I think it's safe to get her back home. For the rest of this video, I'm just going to take in some shots of the area around Billy Creek and show you what this looks like when it's full of water right after a rain. I kind of think this is rare for Billy Creek. It is worth taking a few moments and talking about resilience. We all do stupid things and unthinking things, and it's okay to be temporarily disappointed with yourself, but it's important to be resilient. You know, I had a dad who demonstrated this. He made mistakes, he did silly things. One time he knocked his backhoe off the back of his trailer going under a low bridge, and what did he do? He just put it back on, figured out how to get under it. He never spoke much about being resilient, but he demonstrated it. But I did have a kind of a mentor at one time. His name was Howard, and he spoke very specifically about permission to be resilient, even though you did something crazy. And he talked about it a lot. So kudos to Howard, and just got to say thank you to some people to not get stuck and wallow in your bad decisions. Be resilient, get back up, try again. We're going to wrap up this part of the adventure right here. Come back next time and we're going to do a little bit of back roading from the Billy Creek area up to Talamina Drive on Lennox Ridge Road. Ouachitanationalforest sticker is going to go right over that dent in the back of the pilot tailgate.